I just love the holiday season. Man, I loves me some macaroni and cheese. You see, I just love how you just took what I said and you turned it around. Do you see what I just did? Well, obviously you can't see it, but do you hear what I just did? The same word, love, in different contexts has very different meanings. And this is the primary reason many people have varying concepts as it relates to love. These concepts are actually misconceptions. These misconceptions are based on things that we've heard throughout our entire lives, and we've accepted them as truth. We accepted these things as truth without any investigative research done on our part to validate them. So when it comes to love, Love, love. When it comes to love, what are some of the best and biggest myths or misconceptions that people have convinced themselves of? So fasten your seatbelt, gang. I need you to stick around, and I also need you to put your thinking caps on, because we're going to dig under the surface of this deception, which is the essential topic of the discourse: love misconceptions. Hello, everyone. I'm Bruce Smith, and you're listening to the Essential Discourse Podcast. Our show is a critical examination of Black culture, specifically taboo topics that are embedded in our culture, which directly or indirectly affects our points of view, behaviors, and relationships. Not only do we identify problems, but we also put forward relevant, restorative, reasonable, and responsible solutions to remedy the identified problems. Thanks for joining us. Let's return to the show. Guys, welcome to the Essential Discourse with Bruce Smith. I am here with my guest, Miss Yulonda Washington. I'm going to stop talking for a second and just let her tell us a little bit about her practice and how long she's been involved in this type of work.
Okay. Hello, I'm Yulonda Washington. As Bruce stated, I am the owner and clinical director for It's a Journey Counseling, where we serve in the Central Texas area. We are a group practice currently of 4 therapists. We provide a wide range of therapeutic practices for clients here in the Central Texas area. Myself, my background is I received my degree in marriage and family therapy. I am excited, so excited that I'm about 80% complete with my doctorate in marriage and family therapy. So I'm looking forward to that big graduation date coming here in May 2023. I also have on my staff clinicians that treat complex trauma. We work with couples, we work with families, we work with children. And I am glad that to be a part of a group. My therapists are passionate about what we do. We love what we do, and we ultimately want to help not only strengthen individuals, but strengthen couples and strengthen families.
Outstanding. And that's why it was so important for me to get a professional's voice into this particular topic that we're talking about, because I think a lot of people come into relationships with misconceptions. You got misconceptions based off of ideas of what you think it should be, misconceptions about the person you're actually contemplating getting into a relationship with. So love misconceptions is something that really affects not only married couples, but couples in general. Because if you come in there with a a delusional idea, you're never going to meet that standard. So I'm happy that you agreed to sit down and talk with me in regards to love misconceptions. And I think that hopefully our listeners will find the courage to say, hey, maybe we got a problem and we need to go seek some professional help. Like I told you when we were doing our pre-interview, my wife has this saying, everybody needs a pastor and a therapist. And nowadays that cannot be anything further from the truth. I mean, everybody needs somebody that they can talk to, because marriage is hard.
Marriage is hard, yes.
Yeah.
It's hard, but it's attainable and it's achievable.
Yeah.
For the long term. Right. It is. I agree with your wife. My sister-in-law actually says the same thing. And she's always, make sure you tell them they need a therapist, but they need a pastor too. And so I'm a strong believer. You need both. You definitely need both, because part of the relationship and being connected to someone is not only just you think about the things that go into a relationship, especially when you're a couple and getting married. You think about, financial, you may think about this love, but that spiritual component. Yeah. Oh, it fills in. Right. It fills in, and it's very important. So you need both. Right. You need both.
And I counsel a couple of people right now because they're having some issues. And when you just sit back and based off the experiences that you've had, it's like, yeah, I remember we went through this, but now it seems to be even grander for them, because they got so much that they're facing that we didn't have. You got folk in your business because you're putting it out on social media. You're taking advice from people who don't even have their stuff together. It may appear that it's together, but you're trusting an unreliable source about a topic that, you need spiritual guidance and you need professional guidance too. Right. So I think that I know that this is a topic that if people would just listen and apply and have the courage to seek some help, that it could save some marriages, because there's nothing more mind-boggling or combobulating from my mind to see people who've been married 20, 30, 40 years, and then all of a sudden, let's call it quits. Yeah. You just wasted 30, 40 years that you're not going to get that time back. Mm-mm. And then you're talking about you're going to start the dating process over. Nah. Right.
Instead of nurturing what you already have, because any relationship on any level needs nurturing. But a marriage, you gotta, as the old folks used to say, you gotta water the grass where you at. Mm-hmm. So it's about that nurturing and to putting in the work, because marriage is work, but it's a beautiful work. Right. It doesn't mean that it's all this hard and every day is not, a good day, but you know what? Marriage is rewarding. Yeah. Marriage, as I was preparing for this interview today, I came across this article that I was reading, and what it said, it was really, really profound. And so I'm gonna just take a moment and read this. It said, being in love causes change in our bodies as we release dopamine, the feel-good hormone, which gives us a sense of euphoria, a sense of pleasure. When we're in love, our bodies also increase productions of norepinephrine, which makes your heart race and gives you extra energy, causing hyperactivity. That's why sometimes people in love have a lower appetite and experience insomnia and restlessness. And so when I was going through that and reading, because I was just doing some background and getting some further details on this misconception of love. And when we talk about lust and we talk about love, we talk about being in love, because all of those are different. So one of the things that was one of the questions that was on here was kind of, is there a distinction between lust and love? While there is the distinction between lust and love, but folks who love, they do lust after their mate. Right. And so there's nothing wrong with that, because it's that strong sense of connection. It's that strong sense of desire for that person. But so much else goes into that, because you want that person to be happy. You want that person to be able to function in a way that not only you love them, but it promotes love as well. Mm-hmm. And so when we talk about love is that intense feeling of deep affection, as stated by the dictionary. But when you think about what love feels, people, even though it's a deep feeling of affection, people show it in different ways. And so sometimes the way that I show love may not be the way that my partner shows love, which means sometimes somewhere in the middle, we may think that we're not being loved, but that's where communication comes in.
Right.
So we got to communicate those needs. Mm-hmm. We got to make sure that it's not, well, this is how I love, so it's that take it or leave it. No, it's about this communication. It's about listening. It's about understanding and acknowledging that. And so when you go through those type of talks right there, it intensifies the love even more.
Right. And I think there's a very interesting distinction that you made, because when I did the same research on love, and it was like there was two primary definitions. One was deep affection, and then the other one was more of an intellectual type of thing. So I don't think it's wrong, nothing wrong with having a deep affection that is brought on by what you see. But what you see should spark something in your mind and in your spirit to say, hey, I want to know this person completely. Yes. Because you and I are both old enough to understand that we don't look like what we used to look like 20 years ago. You know, your physical will change with time. And if it's just physical and I don't have any intellectual or spiritual connection to you, well, as soon as your physical goes, as soon as my physical goes, then I'm out the door. And I think that's where a lot of people are finding themselves right now, because they never took the time to invest in the spiritual and the intellect part of love. Yeah. A complete love. It's superficial, basically. It's more lust than it is the actual act of loving someone. Right. Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up, and you brought up another topic, another point when you were doing that. There's nothing wrong with lusting after your spouse, and I think that speaking from experience, you know, we get caught up in the day-to-day. Oh yeah. We get caught up in day-to-day. Okay, I got to go to work. Got to pay these bills. Got to deal with these kids. Got to listen to you. Got to figure out what we're going to eat. And you get into a cycle where, okay, I'm so preoccupied by everything else. And you need to be occupied by these things, because these are things that are qualitative for living a good life. Right. But you can't neglect your partner, your spouse. Your spouse can't be number 27 on a list of, you know, of all these other things. And me and my wife, we go through that from time to time, because she's busy. She works a full-time job. I'm doing the podcast and other things, and we still have a son at home, and we got other responsibilities that we got to attend to, family and adult children. That's a whole nother podcast. Right. But in dealing with all that, you kind of lose each other. And you have to take the time, and this is convicting me while I'm talking about it, you have to take the time to say, you know what? We need some time together. And communication. That's the part that I struggle with, even to today. My wife wants to talk, and I just be sitting there looking at her sometimes like, okay, I got it. and a lot of times we tend to, I think, and you tell me if I'm wrong, we tend to put it, I think we give a cop-out to, okay, men are simple. They really don't have a whole lot to express, and women are just, are predispositioned to want to communicate. And I think that's a cop-out on my part. I can't speak for all men, but on my part, because I'm like, I've learned how to internalize things so much and departmentalize things so much that my thing is, I don't want her to be concerned about the things that are concerning me, because when you see me concerned, it's something wrong. That's my mindset. So could you talk on that for a little while?
Yeah, so it's a couple things that you said, because I am a big proponent of communication, right? Because communicating with one another, it helps fulfill the love tank, right? And so when the love tank is fulfilled, then everybody can kind of be like, okay, But one specific thing to comment on is I definitely do believe men have a whole bunch of things that are going on because, men, they protect their family, they provide security for family, and they provide stability. That's huge. That is a huge undertaking, right? And so I definitely believe that men have all these things swirling and they're like, okay, well, let me just handle these things, because I don't want my wife to have to worry about these things. I don't want my children to have to worry about these things. But see, when we're in a marriage, when we're in a relationship, we're a couple, right? And so part of that communicating, it may not be, I need you to do anything, but babe, I'm just letting you know this is what's going on. This is what I'm kind of thinking. This is what's going on in my mind. And you could preference that by saying, I just need to get this out. I just need to get it out because a lot of times just getting it out, it makes you breathe a little easier.
Right.
You may not need nothing from your wife. I just need you to hear this is what I'm thinking about or what I'm going through. That's whole part of that communication in that deeper connection, because then your wife or if you're, just in a partnership, they will begin to see, well, you know what? Look how my man protected me. It makes you feel safer. It makes you feel more secure. And it provides this stability, not only for you two as a couple, but for your family as a whole. Because even though the kids may not be involved in the intimate conversations and what's going on, they could feel it. They can see it. They may not know, but they can feel and they can see. And so it provides stability. And so when we think about that, that's what we're creating for the family.
Right.
Because we want families to stay together. We want couples to stay together because it's all about building this legacy and what they see. And so I think that sometimes there may be this misconception on what strength looks like for a man.
Right.
Misconception.
Right.
Because I tell my spouse, this is what I'm kind of going on. This is what I'm going through. I don't need anything, babe. I just want to talk about it. I just want to get it out or whatever. That doesn't take away from the strength. Like I said, what that says is, oh wow, okay, he is out there protecting us, making us feel these things. And that is okay. And so a couple other things that you spoke on about that we often forget us because we've got so much going on, and that is so true. It can be so much going on. I will keep going back to communication because I find I'm guilty of this. I will have so much going on or whatever. And, then, date nights begin to slip, or these, just sitting down and taking, if it's 15 minutes a day that you got where you're putting away everything, you're unplugging and you're plugging in to your significant other. But sometimes when the world is swirling, sometimes those things slide. And so one or the other have to reel in and say, hey, babe, hey, I need some time. I need some time.
Right.
Even if it's no more than, like I said, that unplugging and plugging into one another daily. But so when I'm in couples counseling, there's a couple different things. That tools that I kind of use. We have what we call the CEO meeting. And even though the CEO meeting may sound like it's this meeting about, the business of the household and all that, nope. The CEO meeting is a couple doing just that, unplugging everything and plugging into one another. And all you're doing is connecting with one another. Sometimes that connecting isn't necessarily verbal, but a lot of times it can be because I'm a talker too. I communicate a lot too. And my husband, he'd be like, okay, but... I do it, but I need that. I need that. And it may not necessarily be that I need him to respond all the time, but I need to get out this stuff, how my day was, or what's on my mind, or what's going on, or what this, that, and the other. I need that. He don't always need that, you know, all the time. So I do agree that men are not as well, I wouldn't say all men, because some men are the communicators, and the wife, you know, she is not. Right. So it has to be an understanding of communication styles, though, and what people need from those communications, because that matters too. Because even though I'm an introvert, I'm very extroverted with my husband. I need that energy. I need that talk. I need that, because that's what draws me. Right. And that's what feeds my love tank right there. And it, you know, so I think understanding that and having that. And then people, you know, the old date night. Well, you know, date night is very important. And whether you have to put it on, whether you can get it in every week, every 2 weeks, or monthly, or whatever. But you know what? It gives us something to look forward to. Like, this is just us. This is our time. This ain't nobody else's time. And even though you can be out everywhere with a whole bunch of people around you, you're still plugged in. Right. You're still plugged in, which creates that connection and feels that love tank, right? Yeah. So I think that is very important. And then when we talk about feeling love, and a lot of times we use the 5 love languages just to get this overview of how that person needs to be loved, or however, and recognizing that just because this is, you know, maybe affirmations is important to me, it may not be important to my husband. He may be more of a physical guy, but is what do you need to feel your physical? And for me, affirmations, what do you need to, you know, the affirmations, like for me, it's extremely important in the morning for me to start my morning. It is so simple, but it makes my whole day when my husband say, "Good morning, beautiful." That's it. I'm good. I am set. I'm set to the end of the day when I can hear, "I love you. You had a good day. How was your day?" or whatever. Right. So I think knowing those things about each other, it helps fill the love tank. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Just cut me with a couple of knives right there. Because my wife is an affirmation type person. And yeah, if we're going to, I don't care if it's Walmart, and she knows I'm going with her, she'll go in there and change clothes or whatnot. And my thing is, if you don't, well, my thing was, I'm going to change that starting today. Good. My thing was, if I don't say nothing, then you good. You know, that was my thing. And my wife is like, "You ain't said nothing about my outfit. You ain't said nothing about my fingers. You ain't said nothing about," and in my mind, I'm like, "Babe, you good. I mean, I wouldn't let you walk out of here, you know, looking bad and disrespecting, you know, mischaracterizing what we got going on." But she needs that. Yeah. She needs it. And she's told me that. And in my mind, I'm like, "Girl, you tripping." But I'm going to do better. I'm going to do better starting today. Now. That's all. Start today. I'm going to do better. I'm going to do better. You made some mentions of love tank and love languages. Could you explain that to us? Okay. So love languages. Love language is a test, you know, and I use it a lot for couples, regardless on what the issue may be and how we're restoring that relationship. But so love languages. Love languages is a and see, you have to, his name will come to me in a minute, but it was created as this method to find out how that person needs to be loved, right? And so you take this test, and what comes out of that is these 5 ways that generally people want to be loved. It's physical. It could be physical touch. It could be words of affirmation. It could be gifts. It can be hold on. Affirmations, physical touch, gifts. I think of the other 2 in a minute. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah. It slips my mind. But there are generally 5. And what I will say is generally quality time. Because the top 2 are generally quality time, physical touch. Top 3 somewhere in the mix are generally physical touch, quality time, and words of affirmation. And then the other 2 are normally, it go a little bit further, because creating, and so when I talk about those love language, not only it teaches how that other person needs to be loved, but that's what you need to fulfill love tank. And so when I talk about the love tank, The love tank is, what do you need to feel love, whether that is daily, whether that is whatever. And so that's why I use that. I'm a words of affirmation girl. And so that's why I start my morning with my love tank full, just with that simple, those little words. Good morning, beautiful. I'm good. My love tank starts out full, not depleted. Now, as you know, a words of affirmation type of person, as the day goes along, it's like, okay, and not that it's a needy thing, or not that it's none of that. This is just what I need to feel love. And then I know my husband is a physical kind of guy. So I got to get home and we're going to give a hug. We're going to give a kiss. We're going to ignite the spark. So it's all about, what you need to feel, to your love tank to be filled. And sometimes that's not needed every day either. Because I'm not just saying like he got it 7 days a week. I got to hear that every morning.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. But it's knowing. It's just knowing that that's what it is. And knowing that that person recognizes this is how you need to be loved. Because sometimes you'll take this test, or you may tell your mate, like, I need you to tell me that you love me daily. And if that person is not listening and pay attention, and that time goes, kind of like the example you used,
right,
it goes, then it's like, wait, are you really listening to what I need to feel loved?
Right.
Which means it's so different for everyone.
Right. Yeah. In church, pastor often says information is worthless if you're not going to apply it. And conviction, again, my wife has said pretty much everything that we've talked about on some aspect. Mm-hmm. And there have been some areas on that where I've said, you tripping. I just kind of blow it off. Mm-hmm. But doing this research on this and talking to you, I realized that she's not tripping. She's telling me what she needs. And that is part of love.
Yes.
Love is being able to do what your partner needs to feel fulfilled, to have their love tank feel, so they can do what they need to do throughout the day without, having your mind wandering, this, that, and the other. And I think we kind of do, well, no, I don't think we do ourselves a disservice by not listening and applying those simple things. My thing used to be, okay, I done went out and got this and got that and got this and got that. Why would I do that if I didn't love you? Well, that's not the way that she needs her love language, as you just stated. And my thing is, okay, if you give me something, I'm gonna keep that. I'm gonna take care of it because you didn't have to do that for me. So it's about us being able to compromise and make change and apply those things that we know. So I'm really gonna work on that starting today. You hear me, Regina? I'm really gonna start on that today.
Yes. So let me go back just one second and list the 5 love languages, because they all just came to me. So you have words of affirmation, you have physical touch, you have quality time, you have gifts, and you have acts of service. So those are the 5 love languages that generally, somewhere in those categories, people feel like this is what fills my love tank. Now, under those categories, of course, is very different for everyone and how those, but I just had to go back and restate those because, as we know on a podcast, it's like you're just having a conversation and things come up.
Right.
So.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, myths and misconceptions. I think that sometimes as I mentioned earlier, we start off wrong because we've been watching trash TV is what I call it. You listen to all these songs. If I could give you the world, no, you wouldn't, because you ain't got the world to give.
Right.
All these Luther Vandross songs and Freddie Jackson, that's for our generation. I don't know what it is for these young kids, but you got Dynasty, Falcon Crest, Dallas for the old heads. And I guess you got 90 Day Fiance and all this other stuff that's out there right now. And people are just being swayed to think that, hey, this is love. No, that's not actually what love is. Romance novels, that is some of the most some of the most imaginative fiction about love that there is. But if you don't see an example of what real love is, and unfortunate for many of our households, we didn't see a good example of what real love is. You'll come into every relationship until you determine that you want to learn what love actually is. And some of the misconceptions that we've heard is that love is a two-way street. Love is a 50-50 partnership. Love is blind. Love is hard or love is easy. Love made me do whatever, fill in the blank, bust out your car windows or whatever. Love made me do that. I can make somebody love me. I know what love is, and this is it or this ain't it. And love ain't supposed to hurt. These are the 8 that I was able to research and look at. And if you don't mind, I'd like to go through these 8 as long as it takes us to go through them. That first one, love is a two-way street. And these are common phrases that we've all heard, but I don't think anybody ever gave any thought to them.
Yeah.
Love is a two-way street. Okay.
Yeah. And it's challenging. What does that mean? Because I like to counter that with love is selfless.
Love is selfless.
Love is selfless. So, I think encountering that with love is selfless is, granted, you love a person and you want them to love you back. They may not love back in the same way that you need to be loved. So I think that love is a two-way street. I definitely think when we think about that in terms, I have to counter that with love is selfless. Right. Sometimes, especially, you started out, if you depending on the longevity of a relationship, sometimes love may not always be a two-way street. It may not be, but love is selfless.
Right.
And so sometimes when that person, or you feel like that person is not giving the love that is required or the love that is needed, I go back to what? We need to have a talk.
Yeah.
We need to have some communication. But that doesn't mean that you love that person less. It doesn't mean that. I think relationships, they go through peaks and they go through valleys. It is how you climb out that valley to get back to the peak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the experiences that make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
The things that you learn through those difficult moments.
Yes.
And so many people just want to quit. I'm done. I'm tired. I can't do this no more.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Well, you're choosing to quit. You're choosing to be tired. You're choosing to, I can't do this no more.
Yeah.
And when I started thinking about love as a two-way street, I was like, well, that don't make no sense if you just look at a two-way street, unless it's a one-way and there's 2 lanes going the same direction. Because a two-way street, you're passing each other. So if you're going in 2 opposite directions, then where are we going? Together. So that's what I thought of.
Yeah.
And when you say love is selfless, yeah, love is selfless because sometimes I do things that I don't necessarily want to do because I know that A, you want it, or B, you need it. And I have the ability to meet that need. Mm-hmm. And she does the same thing.
Exactly.
And I'm sure you can say the same thing about you and your husband.
Yeah.
And it is selfless. And I think a lot of our people are selfish. It's what can I get out of the relationship instead of what can I pour into my partner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Yeah.
That pouring in is very important.
Yeah. Yeah. Love is a 50-50 partnership. Teddy Pendergrass had a song with some similar lyrics to it. He was like, not 70-30, not 60-40, talking about a 50-50 love.
Oh yeah.
And I was like, I had my own thoughts about this, but I'm gonna let you tackle that one.
50-50 love. And see, now you done took me back to Teddy. But I definitely think this one makes me think of 80-20.
80-20.
That's what that makes me think of. Because 50-50, I think when we talk about a 50-50 partnership, it makes it seem like, okay, well, everything has to be equal and this and that or whatever. Well, we all know, especially if you've been in a relationship any time over probably a day, it ain't 50-50.
Right.
So I think, I don't know. So even going through these misconceptions, I still go back to, love is very selfless and it's so different for everyone. I don't think it's always 50-50, just like I don't think it's, that two-way whole street analogy, but, it just I don't think it's 50-50 all the time.
Right.
All the time. Sometimes it can be, but I kind of like the analogy love is 100-100.
100-100.
100-100. Because, we may not love the same, but when you get to love is selfless, when we get to love is kind. Love is hard sometimes too. That's why the whole 50-50 analogy is not always true, because love may sometimes in there, it may be a little bit harder for the other person, depending on what's going on in the relationship too, because we got to realize that things happen in a relationship.
Right.
And sometimes love have to be restored. And so there's a lot that goes into that 50-50 part.
I ain't finna let you just walk off that love needs to be restored. Come on, talk to me about that.
Well, things happen in a relationship. You think, I like to tell some of my couples when they come in there, and I do get some in there 20 and 30, and they're like, we're at this crossroads. And, I always say, you know what? Grandma and them didn't get to 50 years married without going through some things. And so listen, if they can get through it, we can get through it too. You have to facilitate that, because guess what? The two things you need your pastor and you need your therapist.
Right.
And so we're going to get through this. So when I say love can be restored, so many things happen in a relationship these days. We have not only, there is a lot of miscommunication.
Yes. So
much miscommunication in relationships, which if we will only talk and listen for understanding, then we can get through that. Then there's infidelity. So infidelity is this big one where, some folks still say, oh, if it happens, I'm leaving and the marriage is over and this, that, and that. Well, the marriage is not over. It can still be restored after infidelity. It is two people deciding that we're going to work on this. It is two people deciding we're going to get down to what was this root cause and how do we solve this. But marriage can be restored from so many things. Two people deciding that, divorce is off the table. Right? We're going to go at this together, and we're going to get to the root cause of the problem.
Right.
Just like you would do with anything else. This is when, very much so, love is selfless, plays a huge role in when you're restoring a marriage. But I definitely believe relationships can be restored, because when we restore those relationships, we keep the family intact.
Right.
Too.
Right.
And that's very important, very near and dear to my heart, keeping our families together.
Right. That's good. Thank you for that. My thoughts on that one, love is a 50-50 partnership. I actually discussed this with Regina, and I was like, you know what? I can't remember a time where it's ever been 50-50, because there's some things that you were more equipped and more mentally equipped to deal with than I was at a particular time. And then there's things that I just had knowledge and understanding of that I carried the weight of for a period of time. Not saying that it was 90-10 the whole time or 70-30 or whatever, but there are things that she's better at that and has more patience with than I do. And that's part of that communication as well. Okay. And being honest about yourself. Okay. If I know that, me having to deal with my son is going to cause me to want to cuss and fuss, and she can deal with it and still be effective, and where it doesn't damage him or it doesn't damage the surrounding of the household, well, why not let her deal with it? And at that point, she's more like a 99 to my 1 because there's just certain things, and we all have things that we just don't deal well with.
Yeah.
And if you have a partner and you're communicating, as you said, why not let them deal with that and you be the supporting person? Okay, you heard what your mama said. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And that was my take on that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. The third one, love is blind.
Ooh, that's one because, listen, so when I think about love is blind, I could take that in this concept that so in some terms, love is blind.
Okay.
To the extent that you have this person that you love, right? And things, this goes back to love is blind in a sense when I think about I'm going to love you in all your good and I'm going to love you with them faults that you might have.
Okay, so the better for worse. Better for worse.
Yes, and sickness and in point.
Right.
All of that type of stuff, So when we think about love is blind, it's not blind enough where you're going to allow potentially like abuse or those things. But when we talk about love is blind, it means, you know what? I love you when you up and I love you when you down. There is no bounds to our love. Is how I take that.
Yeah.
Now you may have a different perspective.
Yeah, I was looking at it from a standpoint of, in the same vein, but just further up the vein. I was looking at it from a standpoint, love is blind doesn't negate the fact that you see what you see. You see those behaviors. And if I see these behaviors, then behaviors unchanged become red flags. And red flags, just like you said, I'm not going to sit here and tolerate any abuse, physical or emotional.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tolerate that. I'm not going to let you beat up on me and beat me down with your words or whatnot. But love isn't blind to the point to where you don't see what you see. And if you address what you see and they're unwilling to change, then there's some choices that got to be made.
And so, speaking of that now, those flags, see, I think you see the red flags before you get to the love.
Exactly.
And so you negate the red flags and you try to make love, but guess what? Them red flags ain't went nowhere.
Right.
So that right there, that can be a dangerous one because then you're making a conscious decision to love blind.
Right. And that falls right into I can make somebody love me.
Yeah.
And you can't control people's emotions. I mean, no matter how hard you try, they're going to do what they're going to do. It's got to be a choice to love you or mistreat you, betray you, not be loyal to you. All this stuff is a choice. It's a personal choice on our parts. Now, there's some things that can happen that can affect your choices that you make. But I think from the onset, it's personal choices.
I think it's personal choices. I do. However, we have a lot in our communities of various traumas that may go untreated.
Right.
Or these unhealthy roles of what a family look like or what a relationship look like. And so when people don't invest into fixing those things, then that's when that's created. So we would like to think that as you grow, you learn. But the reality of that is, by virtue of what I see that come right in my office, you have people in their 30s, you have them in their 40s. And then it's like, wait, I didn't have the most healthy role of this growing up. We may have someone come in and there has been infidelity throughout the entire marriage. Well, guess what? When we start doing systemic therapy and we go reach back, that's what granddaddy did. That's what my uncle did. That's what all these. And guess what? Their wives stayed. They didn't see that there was an issue or whatever. This is just what it was. It's just what it was. And it wasn't because it was the norm of what they saw, then they didn't see it as unhealthy. They didn't see that anything was wrong with it. That's just what they did. But then they so happen to find this good wife who's like, hold on. That ain't that ain't the norm.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, wait, what's going on? What's happening? And so, but when they start reaching back and then they really start thinking about, then they come with, you know what? I did see my mom cry a lot. I did see my aunt do this or whatever. And so they begin to notice then what they thought was normal, because let's just remember, if that's the way that you grew up, that's the environment that you see, they thought it was normal. But then they get up to be adults. And even when they get up and get out in the world and, you know, we travel or we meet different people, you start seeing that, hold on, wait. So that's normal, but that's not normal.
Right.
So it just depends. So I do think that sometimes, because people that come into a relationship, they're two individual people that was raised two very different ways, all these different experiences and everything, and then boom, you come together.
Yep.
So I'm definitely a big proponent of premarital counseling, just so you can address a lot of things in the beginning that are going on. It doesn't mean that you're going to lose no love, but it's a deeper understanding, because a lot of it is about understanding where that person come from and how they manifest in the relationship that they have.
Right.
And so it's all about that understanding, and it's so important.
Yeah.
It's so important.
And when you were talking about that, my mind jumped to Fences. That Denzel Washington and Viola Davis movie, when they were out there in the yard, and he was saying, you know, this, that, and I'm mad I'm here. And she says, well, I've been standing right here with you, Troy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what jumped into my mind. And I've got some older mentors, and it was like, man, that is a real depiction of how it was when we were growing up. You know, your daddy might have had another family on the other side of town, and your mama knew it. But based off the choices that she had, she could either leave and go back to her parents, or stay there and say, you know what, suffer it to be. I got these children that he's taking care of these children. So for their well-being, I'm willing to suffer this to be. But, you know, no one should ever have to make that distinction. And I think that's you're right. Environment does play a huge role into who we are. Because I can think of, I remember thinking, man, when I get my kids, I ain't never doing this. And I find myself doing the same doggone thing that my mama did. Okay, you don't want to eat that? You gonna go to sleep hungry.
You've been did it before, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, so thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah.
What's the next one? It is
Love made me do whatever.
Yeah, love made me bust your car windows, and love made me call the police and tell them that you did something you didn't. You know, all that good stuff.
Love don't make you do that.
Right.
Love don't make you do that, because we go back to love is selfless. You know, love is patient. Love is being able to, when something does happen, as traumatic as it may be, love sometimes be like, let me go process this information before I react, because that reaction may not be a true depiction of your emotions, of your feelings. You're angry, you're hurt, and that's what you're acting out of.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't think I've ever used that one. Love made me do something. No, I don't think I've ever. I don't think I've ever done that one. But these young people, I talk to them, and I listen to my daughters talk about their friends and what they've done in the name of love. And I was like, man, that ain't love. You violating the law. You can go to jail for that. You might want to tell them, you know, they need to address their anger issues. That's another emotion. That's anger.
That's another emotion.
Yeah, that's spite. That's anger. That's I'm hurt, like you said, and because I'm hurt, I want you to hurt.
Yep.
Yeah, love didn't make you do that. Yeah, that's just the craziest thing to me. And it's like, and yeah, you're gonna get the reaction that you wanted out of that other person by busting that car window, because we all know them things ain't cheap. And when that's all you got, and you put your time and soul into that, yeah, you're gonna feel some type of way. But nowadays, instead of just a verbal confrontation, you know, people are dying for less.
Yes.
So we really need to rethink how we process these other emotions, because you know, anger, deception, deceit, all that stuff can wind up causing you to be in the hospital or in the mortuary.
Lose everything.
Yeah. Or jail for that.
Yeah.
I think we already hit on, I know what love is and what love ain't. We talked about that without actually mentioning it. But this last one, love ain't supposed to hurt. Now we understand physically.
Yeah.
I ain't taking no abuse. Mentally, I'm not taking any intentional emotional abuse. I'm not dealing with it. We're not advocating that whatsoever. But love's not supposed to hurt. I mean, you hear that and you see that everywhere. It ain't supposed to hurt. And I'm like, because love is selfless and because you have expectations for that person, not that you're going to get something out of it, but you see the potential in that person. You want that person to reach that plateau, that peak. And when that doesn't happen or they do something to delay that hurts.
It hurts.
That hurts.
And so when I think about that, I think I go back to the definition of love, which is a intense feeling of deep affection. Intense. And so when something happens, i.e. infidelity, love hurts, because that doesn't mean that your love for that person just automatically dissipates. What it means is that you're hurt.
Right.
Hurt. So love can hurt, but love can be restored.
Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that we have an issue with. Okay, I'm hurt. I feel how I feel. I can't dismiss it. I can't deny it. I feel how I feel. Then to process that, okay, the other person who's responsible for that feeling, okay, I realize what I did. Honestly, genuinely, I realized what I did. Yeah, it probably was my intentions to do it. Well, whether it wasn't or wasn't, I had this, it caused you to feel this way. I apologize. Can you forgive me? So then when you go to, now I got to make a choice to forgive you or not. And then after I forgive you, there's no guarantee that trust is going to be restored unless we work at it together, which is what you alluded to. So in that scenario right there, you have an act that caused hurt. Now you have, I can't deny it. I can't say that, it ain't, I give zero, how these kids talk. I don't care. I don't need nobody. Well, first and foremost, it was just affirmed yesterday in service. We weren't put on this earth to be alone. Isolation is not healthy for any human being, regardless to whatever you believe in, what color, race. Isolation ain't good. So stop lying to ourselves about, I don't need nobody. I don't care. Yeah, you care. Yeah, you care. And have that person, and even if that person doesn't come and say, I apologize, you still got to work through that emotion. Yeah. And you're still going to have to make a choice to forgive or hold a grudge. That's right. But then you got to look at, okay, by forgiving, what am I gaining or losing? And by holding this grudge, what am I gaining or what I'm losing? And if we would have these intellectual thoughts, these spiritual thoughts, these self-help thoughts, along with a pastor or a therapist or both, I think that a lot of people could move on past this stuff. I don't need that finality. I don't need that closure, because I'm working it out for myself. Now, if you want to come on along with this, I would hope that you would, seeing that you love me. Let's work this out. Let's see where we go from here. And that's a lot of our problem, I believe, as far as misconception. We have this ideal, and this ideal is kind of set in stone for whatever reasons, I don't know. But when you actually think about it, you realize that a lot of this is just straight foolishness. Yes.
You go back to the young folks talking, and it ain't all young folks either. Yeah. But you have a situation, i.e. he did this to me, and be, girl, well, you leave him. And you talking to somebody that they ain't got nobody either. So yeah, they want to pull you onto their team over there, and then both of y'all ain't got nobody. Both of you are just out here doing whatever. And also when you was talking about some of those, there's this new phenomenon where people have divorce parties.
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
Like, how? Where did that come from? you know, because see, we should be celebrating families.
Right.
We should be investing into those celebrations, but then you have all these people, they even do photo shoots now, and everything. But you know, that is the death of a relationship. And so some people, you grieve a divorce or a relationship breaking up, just like you grieve a physical death or a death that has happened. And so it's these new phenomenons, I guess, or these new misconceptions that folks are talking about. Like you said, oh, I can do bad all by myself.
Yeah. Why did I get married?
I don't need a necessarily committed relationship. I need a couple of them. All these different types of things. And although, you know, to each his own, and folks are going to do what folks are going to do, but then there is, you know, let's try to teach them by letting them see that marriages last. Mm-hmm. Families stay together, and all of those things, instead of this quick, oh, you ain't do what I said, you ain't doing, oh, okay, I want a divorce, I'm out of it. No, because you're going to continue to do that. You're going to continue. So when are you going to settle down and say, okay, wait, this ain't it, yeah. And look what it's doing. That's the thing. So
what role does technology play with that? Because my oldest daughter, when she was in high school, she have a disagreement with a friend. You're blocked. Okay. You're blocked. I'm scrubbed everything off my profile containing you, and I was like, that's not really healthy, baby. I mean, because how are you going to have conflict resolution if you get upset, you don't get a chance to hear them, you don't give them a chance to tell you, you know, if that was the intent or what their side of the story was, or if they had wrong information. You just blocking people. And that's a lot. Cancel culture, you know. What role does technology play in this dysfunction of what a family should be, what relationships should be?
It definitely plays a role. Like you said, folks so quick to block. They could see you post something and you don't like, they blocking it because they think it was about me, or they think this or they think that. And so it's that whole social media, and also there's a lot more texting than there is talk.
Correct.
And so then you come to these assumptions about what the person has said. You come to assumption about the tones and all of these different things. Instead of just straight out communicating for understanding and talking with one another. So I believe it plays a role. You know, it goes so far as folks, well, you know, there wasn't that, you ain't post a picture of me and you, or you didn't this, or you didn't that, or whatever, and all of this. And so when we think about all of those different things and the role that social media, trash TV, and this whole, we're in a whole texting just era now. It's relationships were held tighter when there was good old-fashioned communication and people listening to one another.
Yeah.
And so I definitely believe that it play a role. And I know that me personally, I try, it's easy as we're going through busy and we're busy with life to shoot, somebody text, hey, whatever. But I definitely, I try to be more intentional about the phone call.
Right.
Let me call, let me hear your voice. Let's talk and all these type of things. And if there's a conflict, then let's talk about this. Like, what's going on? What are you feeling? And listening to what the person is feeling without feeling attacked. Because that's another issue.
Yeah, that's a big one.
That's a big
one.
Yeah, that's a huge one.
You judging me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So people automatically become on the defense.
Right.
And all of this. So there's a lot of that going on. But imagine if we would just listen for understanding, and then we respond to the information.
Right.
But a lot of that comes in that person being emotionally intelligent too, because it's about self-awareness. It's about just as much as understanding self as it is listening to them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a wild one. Pastor often says we don't judge people because we can't judge people. We're in no position to judge people. What we can judge is behavior.
Yeah.
And a lot of people They've got an issue with the truth. And it doesn't matter where that truth come from, but that you not really like me and that truth is coming from me, then that's a whole problem to the third, fifth degree of that situation. And I think, honestly, I think we all need to, it doesn't hurt for us to do self-assessment of ourselves.
At all.
Because shoot, we know what's wrong with us before anybody else can figure it out. And if we would just do those self-assessments and be honest about it and be courageous enough to make changes, I think that a whole lot of situations that we have would not be, because we've done the work to take care of our behavior.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah,
I wholeheartedly agree. It's sometimes one thing that I teach in the office is checking the facts. So it's like when an event happens, one is, how do I feel?
Mm-hmm.
How identify with the emotion, right? And then it's, why do I feel this way? Like, why did this act make me feel this way?
Mm-hmm.
And really sit with that and process through those emotions, because anger, a lot of time, like I said, it resides and there's this hurt or this injustice that has been done to me that often it made me sad. It hurt me, but the emotion that's shown is anger.
Mm-hmm.
And so one is identify the emotion. Why am I feeling this emotion? And then what do I need to do about this emotion? What do I need to do about this situation? Do I need to go to the person? Is it worth it? Is there something that I need to do to be at peace with this or whatever? And so then it's taking that next step to go to do whatever it is that's going to bring you peace. If you need to straighten it out, if you need to talk to someone, whatever you need to do. So it's really checking the facts. And sometimes that takes a long time for people to kind of get into that rhythm to do that. But it is definitely important. It is definitely important because that can stop some of the miscommunication that happen.
Right.
When we just take something on. And that's why I challenge clients all the time. Okay, why are you feeling that way? I don't know. But you're feeling that way.
Right.
So what's going on? Let's process this out and get to why you really feel what you feel.
Right.
And then we can move on to, what do you need to bring this to peace for you?
If we can't define it, we can't identify it, then how are we going to fix it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That makes so much sense.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like to me you don't really care to discuss it. That's what it sounds like. I don't care to discuss it.
Or sometimes some people actually don't understand why they feel the emotion they feel, because that's a secondary emotion. We need to get to why you really feel what you feel.
Wow.
Yeah.
Secondary emotion.
Yeah.
Being that the primary is suppressed, perhaps.
The primary, like we use anger, Anger is the emotion that's shown. It's the emotion that come out. Mm-hmm. But that primary emotion may reside in frustration, agitation, hurt, pain, any of those emotions. But what we see is this emotion. But when we get to what those primary emotions are, that's the emotion that we're trying to deal with. Right.
So what should individuals do to ensure that they don't fall victims to misconceptions about love?
Make sure they got that pastor, make sure they got that therapist. But one is making sure it's like checking the facts on what you feel, how you feel, and then really thinking about it in a holistic manner, with realizing that love is very selfless. It is very selfless. I don't know how many times to say that.
Yeah.
Love definitely creates a deeper connection than any other emotion. Mm-hmm. I would like to think, but I don't know. Some people may disagree. But I definitely think that when folks have these misconceptions, it's being honest enough with themselves to either, think about what they feel, why they feel, or go to this trusted source and have a conversation with someone so that they can kind of say, okay, and maybe challenge those thoughts at times. Because sometimes, we have our minds made up about something. We need someone to kind of challenge those thoughts to give us a different perspective and not just sit in it.
Right. Elevate our perspective.
Yeah.
Because when we're in it, I can only see as far as I can see at that level.
That's it.
Yeah. But when you elevate my perspective, I can see more of the picture.
Exactly.
Yeah. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Anything else that you like to add in regards to love miscommunications or relationships in general?
I don't think so. We've had a very good conversation. I think my parting words is everyone needs to give love a try, because love is a beautiful emotion, and love can create kindness. Love can just make you a little bit more understanding. Mm-hmm. Love creates this, I want to be able to communicate with you. I may not know how, but I want to be able to do things. And so it's looking at love as this intense feeling, as this thing that love can be conquered. Love can be restored. Right. Love is a beautiful thing. Right. Yeah.
And we're looking at love not from a superficial level, but a completeness of love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a mature love.
Yeah, mature love, a growth and development love.
Exactly.
That 1 Corinthians 13 love.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at. That love. Yeah. Miss Washington, thank you so much for sitting down and having this conversation with me. I really appreciate it, and I hope that we can get together again and do it all over.
Yes, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much. I look forward to doing this again. This was fun.
All right. Outstanding.
All right.
This concludes this episode of Essential Discourse with Bruce Smith. I hope that your perspective has been elevated and that you have been edified, equipped, and encouraged as a result of listening today. Thank you for investing your time with us. If you found value in this episode, please share and recommend it and the podcast to others. We welcome your feedback and comments. Please utilize the comments and or rating sections on our social media feeds, your audio streaming service, or on our website to leave your questions, comments, and or ratings. Finally, please consider joining our community. By joining, you'll be notified of new episodes, guest appearances, and my guest appearances on other podcasts or videocasts. You'll also become instantly eligible to receive our free newsletter and thank you prizes. All you need to do is subscribe at www.edpshow.com and ensure that our communications are directed to your email inbox. Until next time, be kind to yourself and kinder to others. You've been listening to Essential Discourse with Bruce Smith. Peace and blessings be unto you.